Yep, that's me, getting stabbed by the terrifying rage monster that is Darth Vader. You're probably wondering how I got here, right? Well, I'll tell ya. Wouldn't be much of a video if I didn't after all. But first, where are my manners? I'm Shenanigoon, your apprentice rat gamer, and today I'm going to strive to beat the Force Unleashed without the use of my lightsaber. The Force is not only going to get unleashed, it's going to run wild and bite all the neighbor kids as they deserve. You know, I always love, / deeply regret playing on the hardest difficulty every game, but this one's locked behind beating the game once, and frankly, as a Sith apprentice, shouldn't I be playing the apprentice difficulty? That would be the canon way to go. But heck, this game isn't even canon anymore, so let's go be a proper Sith Lord. We begin as the aforementioned angry cyborg man, and I'm doing what I can to remove him as a threat already, but the universe won't let me toss him off these cliffs. It will allow me to sadistically mentally torture the stormtrooper though, dangling him over the edge over and over. Haha, worry not, I'm not a bad guy. Or am I? I continue to taunt my loyal, unfortunate troops, probably killing more of them than these Wookiees. In fact, I try not to kill my furry friends, simply placing them high up and out of the way of danger. Unfortunately, these guys have been watching Obi-Wan and think they can stick a cool landing like he can. Not quite, fellas. Perhaps not the most competent fighters I've ever seen either. This is a guy who believes in only going through obstacles, not around them. I can respect it. It's not like the first boss, the Jedi they were guarding, is much better at combat. All I have to do is keep pushing him and then chuck him around like a ragdoll for a while. Not quite the epic fight of legends, but hey, whatever works. One consequence no one ever tells you about is when you slaughter a whole village and their guardian is suddenly having to care for a small child. Usually Anakin is better about handling these things. Cue a time jump and the awful parenting skills of Vader, and we have adult Galen Merrick, aka Starkiller, aka maybe the most overpowered character in all of Star Wars. Vader put all those years into raising him, so it's only fair that he goes out and kills everyone Vader demands he does, right? Seems like a fair parenting trade. Bringing along my faithful murderous droid and a woman worth toppling an empire for, we get to hunting Jedi. I have a very key tactic going in, and that's to push everything. And to throw them as well. Push and chuck. It got me through kindergarten, it can surely get me through these swarms of rebels and stormtroopers. Pushing so much leads to learn how to push even better, which means infinite more pushing. The only awkward moment is when my force meter runs out every 2 seconds and I have to dash around to not get shot up. Which doesn't always work, and when it doesn't work, I'm treated to the galaxy's longest fade to black ever. Why does the game make me stare at my failures for so long? Do they think I'm going to reflect and get better at the game? Then they just don't know me. Case in point, here's me going from 100% health to 0% in 4 seconds without having to fight anyone. Now that takes special skill, or lack thereof. Putting that lack of skill to good use, I go up against Jedi General Coda. Coda here is not much of a threat. Well, that is till he decides to rip us apart from the ship we're on, straight to a fiery death on the planet below. What a truly cool move, except for the fact that now we're both gonna die, old man. And I get right to dying when we play The Floor is Lava. Wow, you would think Vader would have definitely taught Starkiller how to deal with that one. Though I guess he doesn't have the best track record himself on avoiding it. After losing a few times, I managed to win through my favorite tactic of all, dumb luck. And by that I mean, I'm sure lucky that he's so dumb. Just by standing far enough away from him, he gets really confused and keeps jumping into the floor lava, all by himself. Apparently, stupid is contagious, and he got way too close to me for his own good. Cutscene me blinds him with his lightsaber, and he goes falling to his certain death. I mean, if there's one thing I know about Star Wars, is that high falls always kill Force users. I can't think of a single example otherwise. With that task done, it's on to Raxus Prime, where immediately I'm hit with this line.
Are you picking up any communications?
Too many to decipher. I can hear thousands of droids all calling out to each other. This is where all droids go to die.
Set us down as close to that thing.
Geez, Proxy, are you okay? How can the others just disregard that tragic line? Oh well, back to massacring droids and aliens, I guess. At least now I know Force Lightning, which I used to wild abandon. How I suddenly learned Force Lightning, I don't really know. But why wonder when I can laugh evilly and go zap zap? When the galaxy puts a huge droid guardian in front of me, I tear it to shreds with ease. And when I do the quick time event, I accidentally use my lightsaber. I was not expecting that, but I have an easy answer to it. Guess I'm a Force user exempt to the falling doesn't hurt rule. Coming back, the fighting goes much worse, where I find myself falling less than on purpose. Don't you just love when you easily win the first time, have to restart, and have so much more trouble the next attempts? Or is that just me with that problem? When I finally make it through that Guardian, I'm treated to another, but this time I'm sporting a very cool Sith uniform, so I'm sure I'll be fine. When I beat the second Guardian, I find that I must use the quick time to finish him, as he won't stop healing from my strikes because the game must have the dramatic finisher, it seems. Thankfully, the universe has mercy on me and Starkiller uses the Force to finish it and not his lightsaber. I sure hope I enjoy getting my Sith butt handed to me because the level isn't over yet. The Jedi have been seeking his cuckoo for friends and quality time with others, and like most of us have done at one point or another, build statue replicas to stand in for the friends we no longer have. I'm very sympathetic to him, and that's why I chucked the Yoda replica at him, just trying to give him a hug. I feel less sympathy though as he tears me apart over and over again. Crazy here is fantastic at blocking my Force attacks and hitting me with plenty of his own. And this time I don't have a magic lava floor to fix it for me. He even brings out those annoying guardians too in between hell stages to make my life oh so much worse. Two things end up being the key to my victory. One, the checkpoints after each guardian fight where I pop back in at full health while he doesn't. And two, the fact that I learned that I could spam this lightning crush power to do heavy damage and knock him down over and over. And two, the fact that I'm an idiot that won't quit no matter how insane it drives me. Sadly, the unavoidable QuickTime event that's part of every boss fight forces the use of the lightsaber no matter how I try to avoid it. But if it means anything, these are basically interactable cutscenes and not really me having any control or even any danger from them. With that done, I'm off to the Mushroom Planet. Listen, I know it's humid and hot, but this outfit seems a bit much. My Sith outfit is strangely missing from my inventory though, so I guess I'm going with this. Hope it increases my charm with the locals at least. Immediately nope. Everyone is once again trying to kill me, including the plant life now, which is fun. Oh, and yep, Rancors. Luke had trouble with just one, and I'm facing off against 4 of them in total. 3 of them at the exact same time, while avoiding getting killed by the angry natives? It's a good thing Starkiller really is the most overpowered character as I run around, doing my absolute best Palpatine impression, shooting everything with enough electricity to power a small town for a week. Only difference is Palpatine is usually laughing maniacally, while I was maniacally crying to myself. Practically the same thing. Reaching the Jedi of this mission, Shaak Ti, I wasn't too surprised to see she was even more annoying than the last boss. Well, she would be anyways with her constant Force deflection, except she suffers from 2 major flaws. She has terribly short-term memory, and is horribly nearsighted. Which, yes, reminds me a lot of me, but at least I could tell not to step into these giant acid pimples. But she never seemed to get that, and I made the most out of them, causing her to constantly step in them before giving her the shock of her life, and then repeat till victory. One of my grosser successes in life for sure. And thankfully, QuickTime Event Starkiller kept true to the challenge by using lightning to finish the fight. With her dead, Father Vader can be oh so proud of me, and we're gonna team up and kill the Emperor! Yay! Wait a second, I don't remember that happening in the movies. Oh yeah. Well, here we are. Betrayed by my old pa. Not the most surprising thing ever, I admit, but it still hurts like a lightsaber to the gut. Worry not, though. It wasn't a trap. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. These Sith shenanigans can be a bit convoluted. Basically, Vader is still my father, bro, and I'm gonna go pretend to be a good guy for him in order to gather an army to overthrow the Emperor. Not at all a very convoluted trap. I mean, it's not like it can fall for the exact same betrayal by the same guy in the same game twice in a row. So, first things first, escaping my confines. Poisonous gas. Frick! Vader, you could have made this easier to escape from, especially since the stormtroopers are now using invisible technology, giant power armor, and worst of all, shields that somehow stop the Force. I'm not sure how that works, but it sure burst my bubble. It took me a little to figure out using my high-cost Force repulse is the best way to pop their bubble, but I sure don't like it existing at all. Just once, I'd like the enemies to not have any counter to my abilities. It would be a fun change of pace. After escaping, much to my surprise I'm sure, I find General Coda alive and my new ally. Sure, he's drunk and blind, but all things considered for falling thousands of feet after getting his eyes scorched, he's doing pretty well. How did he survive? Somehow. That's how. Somehow, General Coda is alive. Let's just accept it. He doesn't seem able to repeat the trick though when I realize I can force throw him to my heart's content. Probably should stop chucking him off the side, but he's a very handy bowling ball to throw at the Empire. Making it to Kashyyyk, the stress has really gotten to me, but I feel my power in the Force has increased an unnatural amount. I may look a tad older than a moment ago, but I assure you, I'm all good. Except for the fact that 1 minute after equipping this outfit, do I manage to throw myself off the edge to my certain doom. Something about playing Papa Palpatine just makes me very prone to falling to my death. I hope that's not foreshadowing anything. At this point in time, I rarely used push anymore, moving on to electrocuting everything and chucking everything else. It really proves useful when going against an ATST boss fight that's surprisingly quite easy. I suppose a giant death machine is nothing in comparison to Jedi Masters. Reaching Mushroom World for the second time, I discovered the Empire's troopers truly are on another level of intelligence. Buddy, you can walk around the force fields. You know that, right? This isn't even a problem of object permanence. You can still clearly see me. Am I not worth the trouble? Wow. Insulting. I mean, really, guys. Why put these barriers here if you're too big to walk through them? Just really brings that bridge aesthetic together? Alright, I can't blame you for that. Whatever survival skill Starkiller should have had must not exist as he willingly descends into a sarlacc pit. This is nice. Very cozy, very moist. Just like all homes should be. The tendrils are very welcoming. Lots of love from them. You don't get that in just any home, you know. I could probably do without getting sucked up into these flappy walls, but what home doesn't have its quirks? Right after, I go up against a Rancor who just won't let me kill it without a quicktime event, which I'm sure will involve a lightsaber move. Instead, I do what would have been the most sensible move from the start and run past it to my objective, which happens to be a much bigger Rancor and a stealthy, angry Force user. This is a true fight of patience, as the big boy does not want to die to my lightning, and so comes a long process of zap zap, dodge dodge, zap zap, dodge dodge, get hit by their own lightsaber attacks that I can't avoid, end up dying, and restarting all over again. It took a couple more tries before I realized using Force Repulse was a much more effective counter to both the angry stealth lady and the big guy. Sometimes zap zap isn't the answer to all of life's problems. Who knew? Being repulsive works just as well. The quicktime event involves plenty of lightsaber sadly, but I have no control of that. I do make Starkiller pay for using it though by letting the Rancor introduce him to the ground a few times. With its death, time to fight Maris, the angry lady. What kind of name is Maris for an emo Force user and not a rich debutante? I don't know. But I get why Darksiders often change their name. And she really suffers from the lack of an intimidating name because I take her down on my first try, flinging her every which way. Sadly, lightning won't finish her off, and Starkiller once again hurts my soul by using his lightsaber in the quicktime event. It really throws me off when I actually see Starkiller himself in the cutscene though. I keep forgetting I'm not actually Palpatine on a redemption arc to fix all my wrongs and restore the Republic from my own empire. Back on the droid planet, I managed to fall to my death a couple times, like I always do, but things go well overall. Until my best friend, Proxy the murderous droid, decides right now is a good time to fulfill his programming and kill me. Finally, a friend who cares enough to focus all his time and energy on me. How sweet. He succeeds a few times, but I figured out by now the true power of being repulsive. My sheer ugliness manages to beat him, even allowing me to take down his Darth Maul form first try, while at low health the whole time. As usual, Starkiller ruins my fun with quicktime event lightsabers, but at least he makes up for it a second later by ripping an entire frickin' Star Destroyer from the sky. Wow. On one hand, that was pretty awesome. On the other hand, I believe there are normally 37,000 people on board a single Star Destroyer, and I can't exactly blame anyone else for their deaths. Oh well, Luke ends up killing like 1 million people on the Death Star later, so these are amateur numbers. With that done, the Rebel Alliance is officially being formed. But oh no, a totally surprising and not at all predictable betrayal by Vader yet again. Come on, Starkiller, I know he's the guy who raised you much of your life, but this is like his whole shtick. He literally has made his career off of betraying those closest to him. Probably shouldn't have named his adopted son Starkiller though, and have a giant space station called the Death Star. It's like a magnet for guys like him. Heading to the Death Star, I do a cool landing worthy of any hero, only to get torn apart over and over again by the huge welcoming party. Only after wiping out a good deal of them with careful use of cover and the fact that they're idiots, do I realize I too am an idiot. The exit has been available to me the entire time, and I could have left that evil room at any point. Fun. I'm a good guy now, right? So when I force a stormtrooper to hover in the disintegration beam as the Death Star fires, that's not evil, right? Reaching the big important door that all bosses hang out behind, I'm attacked by a plethora of Sith guards. These guys are very annoying to deal with, constantly blocking all my force attacks, and after a few tries and finally eliminating most, all that remained was the mini-boss. Thankfully, being the leader of the group magically makes him the dumbest it seems, as I simply ignore him, open the very slow to open lock on the door, and just leave him behind. Note to self, maybe hire better bodyguards when this is over. Face to face with Father Vader, I learned that no matter how much force I've unleashed, someone's always going to unleash even more. Vader is by far the hardest boss I've faced, as he deserves to be. But could he not? Please? Wouldn't it be a fun twist to find out he actually sucks in comparison to me? Oh well. As usual, only trickery leads to victory, as I dodge his attacks and unleash my own force on him. The key is to get him to try and send a ball of force back at me, leaving himself vulnerable to counterattack for about 0.5 seconds before trying to tear me apart again. a little dose of the zap zap on repeat, and finally, he's beaten. No, not really. Just stage 2 of his fight. But this stage is even easier, as I can just keep chucking stuff at him. But when he traps us in a small corner, I find the evilest, most unnatural part of this game turns against me. The wonky aiming controls, as I continue to try and throw stuff at him, but just end up trashing the room even more instead. And every time I pray to the Force that he won't use his lightsaber though, as there's literally nothing I can do to avoid it. Persevering, I managed to reduce his health enough to trigger the quick time finishing cinematic, and Vader goes down. Instead of the game being over though, now I have to choose between finish Vader or fight Palpatine. I, of course, choose to take on my imposter and regain the throne. Sadly, Grandpapa Palpatine is a force to be reckoned with, especially given he has 0 checkpoints in his fight. Thankfully, he only knows 2 moves, as he's also doing a no lightsaber challenge. He proves much easier than Vader, but he's still quite the geriatric annoyance. Trying again and again, only surviving off the health of his minions, do I manage to beat the imposter and lightning my way to victory. Wow, I beat Palpatine himself. I guess Luke will have nothing to do after all. Oh wait, of course, I'm not killing him. He tells me to do it, so therefore it would be wrong to do it. Really, guys? I guess the key to surviving is to always tell your enemy to kill you, and therefore they won't. Palps is a true master of reverse psychology. And electrocuting things, it seems. With his defeat, though, I've won! Huzzah! Over the course of 11 hours, 49 minutes, and 104 deaths, I beat the Force Unleashed without my lightsaber. Sure, QuickTime Event Starkiller used it a few times, but I take no responsibility for that guy in what is essentially an unskippable, overly interactive cinematic. And with that, I thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope you enjoyed watching me shenanigan my way through life. Now go unleash some force of your own, and remember, the greatest force of all is love. At least, I think that was the moral of this game. Maybe it's actually lightning? Or perhaps a love for lightning? Whatever the case, have fun and see you later, friends.